When people speak of the Himalayas, they imagine a single wall of towering peaks stretching across Asia. But within this vast mountain world lies a harsher, sharper range, the Karakoram. And at its far northern edge, where Pakistan meets China, rises a mountain whose reputation is as unforgiving as its profile. At more than 28,000 feet, it is the world's second highest peak. Yet its identity has never depended on rankings. K2 is known not for altitude alone, but for brutal weather, razor-edged ridges, and a history shaped more by survival than success. The name K2 traces back to the Great Trigonometrical Survey of the 1850s. Surveyors labeled peaks across the Karakoram as K1, K2, K3, temporary markers meant to be replaced by local names. Most were, K2 never was. The number remained, stark and impersonal, mirroring the mountain's own uncompromising nature. Climbers reach K2 through the Baltoro Glacier, a 35-mile river of ice and stone that winds deep into the Karakoram. Camps emerge along its fractured surface, shifting each season as the glacier slowly reshapes itself under the weight of the surrounding giants. Every route on K2 demands total commitment. Exposed ridges, narrow couloirs, and steep slopes leave little room for error. A slight change in weather or temperature can turn progress into peril. On this mountain, nothing is given freely. Every step upward is earned. North of K2, the landscape softens just slightly into the Hunza Valley, where apricot orchards cling to terraces and stone-built villages follow the river like quiet companions. At over 8,000 feet, Hunza's summers are short, its climate dry, and its growing season brief. Yet the valley flourishes with life, shaped by communities who have adapted to altitude for centuries. Historically, Hunza occupied a strategic corner of the Silk Route. Local rulers balanced alliances with neighboring powers, while caravans threaded between high passes. High above the town of Karimabad stands Baltit Fort, a 700-year-old structure perched on a natural ledge. Once an administrative center and royal residence, it still watches the valley like an ancient sentinel. Cutting through Hunza is one of the region's defining features, the Karakoram Highway. Built jointly by Pakistan and China in the 1960s and 70s, it follows an ancient trade corridor and remains one of the world's highest international paved roads. For Hunza, the highway changed everything. Travel that once took days now takes hours. Goods arrive more easily. And tourism, drawn by views of Rakaposhi, Ultasar, and the surrounding peaks, has become core to daily life. And then, as the mountains shift eastward, the land opens into a stark, cold desert, Nubra Valley, one of the most surprising landscapes in the Himalayas. Here, summers are short but bright. Winters are long and bitter. Temperature swings can be extreme even within the same day. Yet against this harsh canvas, the Indus River and its tributaries carve out narrow green ribbons of willow and sea buckthorn. Along the valley, pale sand dunes rise like an echo of the Sahara, remnants of an ancient lakebed reshaped over time by the shifting Shyok River. Around their edges graze Bactrian camels, the two humped survivors of the old Silk Route. Their ancestors once carried salt, wool, and turquoise towards Central Asia. Today, they remind visitors that trade shaped this valley long before tourism did. The largest settlement in Nubra is Diskit. Above it, clinging to a rocky ridge, stands Ladakh's oldest surviving monastery. Its whitewashed buildings follow the contours of the sandstone hill, scattered like a small village frozen in time. For centuries, it guarded the trade route that wound northward toward Central Asia. Across the ridge rises the 100-foot statue of Maitreya Buddha, completed in 2010. Though modern, its symbolism reaches deep into tradition. The statue faces west toward the border as a gesture of peace in a region defined by geography and geopolitics. Nubra Valley connects to the outside world through Kardung La, one of the highest motorable passes on Earth. Its exact elevation has been debated for years, but it stands around 17,600 feet, high enough that each breath feels lighter than expected and colder than you'd like. Before roads, caravans crossed this pass on foot and camelback, hauling goods between Nubra and Leh. They weren't thrill-seekers, they were traders, messengers, and families navigating a corridor that demanded respect. The modern road, cut in the 1970s, shifted the pass's role from commerce to logistics. For decades, signs called it the highest motorable road in the world. Whether or not that's technically true hardly matters. What defines Kardung La is its character, not its statistics. As the road descends toward Leh, the air gains weight. The capital of the Ladakh region appears gradually, tucked between ridgelines and old trade routes. High above the town sits Leh Palace, a 9-story fortress built in the early 1600s. Modeled on the Potala Palace of Lhasa, though far smaller, it once served as the political center of the Ladakhi kingdom. Weathered by sun and sand, the palace stands darkened, yet dignified. From its terraces, you can see the white dome of Shanti Stupa, a monument of peace built in the late 1980s by Japanese and Ladakhi Buddhists. Despite modern growth fueled by tourism and military presence, Leh's historic core, its bizarre streets, prayer wheels, and centuries-old lanes, still echoes its past as a small but vital Silk Route town. From these high desert kingdoms, our journey turns south, toward the foothills of India, where rivers, temples, and ancient pilgrimage routes reshape the landscape once again. As we leave Ladakh's cold desert and descend into the central Himalayas, the landscape tightens into steep glacial valleys. Here sits Gangotri, a mountain town of immense cultural weight. To millions of people, this is the symbolic birthplace of the Ganga, India's most sacred river. Gangotri rests at around 10,000 feet, perched on one of the few terraces carved wide enough for human settlement. For pilgrims, the journey here, through cramped gorges and cliffside roads, is as meaningful as the destination. At the center of the town stands the Gangotri Temple, built in the early 18th century. Modest in scale, yet powerful in presence, it marks the point where myth, devotion, and geography intertwine. From Gangotri, the road climbs and narrows again, then opens into a valley that leads toward Kedarnath, one of the most revered temples dedicated to Shiva. Perched at nearly 12,000 feet, Kedarnath has stood for centuries, its thick stone walls fitted without mortar, designed to withstand snow, rain, and time. According to tradition, the temple dates back to the 8th century, associated with the philosopher Saint Adi Shankara. Reaching the temple requires effort, Even today, the final approach is on foot, winding through forests and steep switchbacks. But the struggle is part of the pilgrimage. It prepares the mind for a sanctuary perched so close to the sky. In summer, the settlement around the temple fills with pilgrims. In winter, the valley empties, the temple closes, and the sacred idol is ceremonially carried downhill to continue worship in a warmer town. As the Himalayan waters plunge southward, the Bhagirathi and Alaknanda rivers merge, forming the Ganga. By the time the river reaches Rishikesh, it has transformed from a narrow mountain stream into a wide, powerful current. Rishikesh has long been a center of yoga, pilgrimage, and religious study. Here, the river defines the rhythm of life. Stone ghats line the banks, simple terraces where people pray, bathe, and offer morning rituals. Nearby stands the 13-story Triambakeshwar temple, its colorful tiers rising above the water. It has become one of the city's most recognizable silhouettes. Across the river stretches the iconic Lakshman Jula suspension bridge. According to legend, Lord Rama's brother once crossed here on a rope of jute. Today, people cross on steel cables instead. Monks, travelers, children, vendors, all moving to the same gentle hum of the Ganga. From the sacred river plains, the route shifts again, this time into the cool green hills of Darjeeling, perched at around 6,700 feet. This region is known worldwide for one thing: tea. Introduced by the British in the 1800s, tea built Darjeeling's economy and reshaped its slopes into carefully planted grids of bushes. Workers plucked the tender 2 leaves and a bud, the foundation of Darjeeling's signature muscatel flavor. The hills, the mist, the rhythm of the work, everything blends into a landscape both humble and iconic. Threading through this terrain is the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway, often called the toy train. A narrow-gauge track from the late 19th century, it climbs steep slopes and tight curves that seem almost impossible for a locomotive. Steam engines, some over 100 years old, still run today, puffing through quiet villages and forests as if time never quite caught up. Crossing eastward into Bhutan, the mountains rise again, and the valleys deepen into shadow. Above the Paro Valley sits one of the most dramatic monasteries in the world, Tiger's Nest, or Taktsang. Clinging to a cliff nearly 3,000 feet above the valley floor, the monastery feels almost suspended in air. Built in the 1600s, it required incredible effort. Materials carried on foot, walls anchored into solid rock, faith solidifying what gravity attempted to challenge. According to legend, Guru Rinpoche flew to this site on the back of a tigress, bringing Buddhism to Bhutan. Today, pilgrims still climb to the monastery through forests of rhododendron and pine. Inside, photography is limited, and silence is encouraged. The monastery remains a place where the sacred feels undisturbed. Down in the valley, at the confluence of 2 rivers, stands Punakha Dzong, one of Bhutan's most important and beautiful structures. Called the Palace of Great Happiness, Punakha blends administrative function with monastic life. Its courtyards open onto murals, prayer halls, and river views that feel timeless. In 1907, this was where Bhutan's first king was crowned, marking the unification of the country. Even today, the fortress holds ceremonies central to Bhutanese identity. In Bhutan's mid-altitude bamboo forests lives one of the Himalayas' most beloved but elusive animals, the red panda. Despite their name, they are not closely related to giant pandas. They belong to their own evolutionary branch. Their curved claws and flexible ankles allow them to descend trees headfirst, one of the few mammals capable of doing so. Red pandas rely heavily on bamboo shoots, berries, blossoms, and insects. But climate change is pushing bamboo forests higher each decade, shrinking viable habitat. Conservation programs across Bhutan and northeastern India focus on protecting these fragile ecosystems and ensuring the red panda's quiet presence remains part of the landscape. Our route shifts northeast into the southeastern edge of the Tibetan plateau Nyingchi, a region surprisingly lush for its altitude. Here, sheltered by mountains and nourished by rivers, spring unfolds differently. While much of Tibet remains harsh and wind-swept, Nyingchi's valleys bloom with peach blossoms. For a few short weeks each year, the landscape turns soft pink and white. It feels like a brief dream, fleeting, delicate, and impossible to forget. And just as quickly as they arrive, the blossoms fall, returning the valley to its quiet emerald green. From the river valleys of India and the soft blossoms of Tibet, the journey next rises again toward the holy lakes and high plateaus, where culture, altitude, and myth converge. As we leave the gentler valleys of Nyingchi, the road climbs sharply back into the thin air of the Tibetan plateau. At more than 14,500 feet, the landscape feels otherworldly vast, quiet, and overwhelmingly open. Here lies Yamdrok Lake, one of Tibet's 4 great holy lakes. Its turquoise waters stretch like an impossible jewel across an otherwise lunar landscape. Pilgrims have traveled to this lake for centuries, believing its shape resembles a protective scorpion, its branching arms spreading across the plateau. Small villages and herding communities live near the lake's edge, where sheep and yaks graze on thin alpine grasses. Monasteries rise from ridgelines, including one historically led by a female reincarnate lama, an uncommon lineage in Tibetan Buddhism. Throughout the day, the lake changes color deep blue in the morning, glowing turquoise at noon, and soft jade when clouds drift over the plateau. Farther west lies Shigatse, Tibet's second-largest city, a place shaped by monks, merchants, and centuries of shifting trade routes. Its identity is defined by the great Tashilhunpo monastery, founded in 1447. It later became the seat of the Panchen Lama, second only to the Dalai Lama in the Gelug tradition. Golden roofs rise over whitewashed buildings as the complex stretches across the hillside. Inside, chapels glow with statues, incense, and centuries-old scriptures. Yet the city's history isn't just spiritual. Over Shigatse towers, the Shigatse Dzong, a fortress perched along a narrow ridge, once home to regional governors and a crucial post along the old trade networks. Turning east again, the route leads toward Tibet's most storied city, Lhasa, a place where tradition and modern life exist in striking contrast. Overlooking everything is the Potala Palace, a monumental structure that dominates the valley like a stone mountain. With its red and white walls rising in terraces, the palace feels less constructed and more carved from the hill itself. For centuries, this was the winter residence of the Dalai Lamas, a center where religious authority and political leadership intertwined. Inside the Red Palace are golden stupas, holding the remains of past Dalai Lamas, surrounded by murals and relics. The White Palace, simpler in design, once held government offices and living quarters. From the highest terrace, Old Lhasa spreads out like a mosaic narrow lane shaped by countless cycles of pilgrimage. While the Potala is iconic, the spiritual pulse of Lhasa beats strongest around the Barkhor Circuit and Jokang Temple. Pilgrims from across the plateau walk the Barkhor clockwise, spinning prayer wheels, chanting mantras, or prostrating fully, bodies hitting the stone path in long sequences of devotion. At the center sits Jokang Temple, the most sacred shrine in Tibetan Buddhism. Built in the 7th century, it houses one of the oldest statues of the Buddha, said to be blessed by the hands of early Tibetan royalty. The temple's interior is dim, lit by butter lamps that flicker across gilded statues and ancient murals. Just north and west of Lhasa lie two of Tibet's largest monasteries, Sera and Drepung, once home to thousands of monks. At Sera, afternoons come alive with monk debates, an energetic rhythm of clapping, questioning, and philosophical testing that has continued for centuries. Drepung, once the largest monastery in the world, sprawls across a hillside like a whitewashed village, with courtyards, kitchens, and long tunnels connecting prayer halls. As we exit Lhasa, the landscape widens again, turning sparse and windswept. The sense of scale shifts from architectural grandeur to raw geographic immensity. Ahead lies one of the most revered mountains in Asia, Mount Kailash, sacred to 4 religions and untouched by climbers. Its perfect pyramid shape rises from the plateau with an almost geometric precision, 4 faces pointing exactly toward the cardinal directions. For pilgrims, the goal isn't the summit, it's the circumambulation, known as the Kora, a 32-mile loop around the mountain. Each step is deliberate. At altitudes above 17,000 feet, the air is thin, and even a slow walk feels demanding. Pilgrims move at their own pace, some chanting, some barefoot, some in complete silence. Prayer flags whip in the wind, their colors fading under the intense sun. Completing the Kora is believed to cleanse a lifetime of negativity. Doing it more than once is considered an act of deep spiritual devotion. From Tibet's high plateau, the route dips south, approaching one of the Himalayas' most remote regions, Upper Mustang. Hemmed in by dry hills and eroded cliffs, Mustang feels almost like a desert within the Himalaya. Trails follow ancient trade routes, once used by caravans carrying salt from Tibet and grain from Nepal. Most striking are the cave complexes carved into vertical cliffs. Some simple shelters, others multi-chambered structures used for meditation, storage, or protection. Their origins are still partly mysterious, adding an element of intrigue to a landscape already carved by wind, water, and human history. Upper Mustang stretches across a landscape that feels ancient and untouched. Dry cliffs, narrow gorges, and windswept ridges carved into layered reds, browns, and golds. This hidden region, once part of the Kingdom of Lo, developed around trade routes linking Tibet to the fertile valleys of Nepal. Traders carried salt, barley, and wool through passes that remain rugged even today. But the most mysterious part of Mustang is its sky caves, thousands of carved openings high in the cliffs. Some are tiny meditation retreats, others contain multiple rooms stacked like vertical villages. For centuries, monks, hermits, and local families used these caves for storage, worship, and shelter from winter winds. Inside, walls are smooth and sometimes painted with faint murals, quiet remnants of people who lived or prayed here long before modern roads reached this region. From Mustang, the path curves toward one of Nepal's most iconic trekking routes, the Annapurna Circuit, a trail that loops around the immense Annapurna Massif. Stretching more than 230 miles, the route crosses through lush subtropical valleys, pine forests, and high-altitude deserts, making it one of the most diverse treks on Earth. Tiny mountain villages mark the trail clusters of stone houses, tea shops, and prayer wheels that have supported travelers for generations. As elevation rises, forests thin, and the horizon widens. Snow peaks begin to dominate the skyline. One of the toughest side routes leads to Tilicho Lake, often called one of the highest lakes in the world. The trail winds along cliffs where loose scree and narrow paths make progress slow and careful. Waterfalls freeze in winter. Stone slopes radiate heat in summer. The environment is harsh, but breathtaking. When the lake finally appears, it looks unreal. A deep turquoise basin surrounded by sharp ridges and glaciers. Tilicho Lake is fed entirely by snowmelt and small glaciers, giving it colors that change with the shifting light. Local communities consider it sacred. Pilgrims have carried offerings to these heights for generations, seeking purification and spiritual clarity. Avalanches and landslides are common here. The landscape feels alive, constantly shifting under ice, wind, and time. As the trail leaves the high mountains, the terrain softens, forests return, rivers braid through the valley, and villages grow more frequent. After weeks of rugged terrain, the first glimpse of Pokhara feels almost dreamlike, warm, green, and peaceful. With the Annapurna Range towering in the background, Pokhara has become both a gateway and a refuge for trekkers. Nestled near the foothills, Pokhara moves at a calm, relaxed pace compared to Kathmandu. Traditional temples stand between modern cafes. Local markets flow with fruit, spices, and trekking gear. Expeditions launch from here, trekkers rest here, and for many, it's the emotional end of the Annapurna journey. At the center of the city lies Fiwa Lake, a still sheet of water that reflects the Annapurna Range with almost perfect clarity. Wooden boats drift across the surface, paddled slowly toward the small island that holds Talbarahi Temple, a sacred shrine floating on the lake. As morning fog lifts or evening light settles, the lake becomes a mirror of snow peaks, forests, and clouds. This quiet scenery draws both locals and travelers, a place to pause after long days on the trail. Despite its popularity, Pokhara still feels grounded in daily life. Fishermen repairing nets, families gathering near the water, children running along the lakeside paths. Guest houses line the streets, and the hum of conversation mixes with the distant sound of paddle boats and temple bells. The mountains feel close but out of reach, a reminder of the scale of the Himalaya. To trekkers, Pokhara is both an ending and a beginning, a place to recover, reflect, and prepare for the next journey. Some stay only a day, others linger for weeks, unable to let go of the serenity that settles over the lake at dusk. Leaving the cool hills, the journey descends into Nepal's southern lowlands, a tropical landscape far removed from the icy peaks. Here lies Chitwan National Park, one of Nepal's most important wildlife reserves, and a striking contrast to the high mountains. Grasslands stretch toward the horizon, rivers move slowly, and dense forests hide an astonishing amount of life. Chitwan shelters rare species: the Indian rhinoceros, Bengal tigers, crocodiles, elephants, and hundreds of bird species. The rhino population here nearly disappeared last century. Thanks to decades of conservation work, it has rebounded, a rare environmental success story. Tigers are elusive, but their presence shapes the ecosystem. Every rustle in the tall grass feels significant. The southern plains of Nepal feel like an entirely different country, humid, green, and full of life. Chitwan National Park is a world shaped by rivers, monsoon forests, and grasslands that rise taller than people. At dawn, the forest wakes slowly, birds calling through the mist, branches cracking under unseen footsteps, and sunlight breaking through the canopy in thin golden beams. Safari guides move with practiced calm. They know this terrain intimately, every trail, every footprint, every sound carried by the wind. Riverbanks are lined with marsh-mugger crocodiles, warming themselves in the early light, perfectly still except for the flick of a tail. Chitwan is home to one of the world's last strongholds of the Indian one-horned rhinoceros, a species once on the brink of disappearing. Seeing a rhino in the wild is unforgettable. They move slowly, grazing through the tall grass, powerful yet strangely peaceful. Thanks to years of conservation, anti-poaching patrols, and community support, rhino numbers here have climbed, a quiet triumph for Nepal and the world. Their presence reminds you that this ecosystem is ancient, resilient, and still full of wonders. The Rapti River winds through Chitwan like a soft boundary between dense jungle and open plains. Canoes drift silently along the water, carved from single tree trunks, the same style used by local communities for generations. Along the banks, spotted deer stand alert, and colorful kingfishers dive in flashes of blue and orange. Somewhere in the distance, deep in the forest, a Bengal tiger moves unseen, the true ruler of this landscape. Leaving the forests, the path leads west across warm plains and farmland to one of Nepal's holiest places, Lumbini, the birthplace of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. The landscape softens into fields of mustard flowers, rice paddies, and quiet villages. It feels peaceful long before you arrive. Lumbini is not a busy city. It's a sanctuary designed for reflection, meditation, and spiritual connection. At the center of the complex lies the sacred garden, a quiet area protected by trees and ancient brick walls. Here stands the Maya Devi Temple, marking the exact spot where Queen Maya Devi gave birth to Siddhartha more than 2,600 years ago. Inside, archaeologists uncovered layers of ancient structures, some dating back to the earliest roots of Buddhism. Pilgrims walk barefoot along stone paths, lighting candles, offering flowers, and sitting in meditation beneath the branches of the Bodhi tree. Surrounding the garden is a vast area known as the monastic zone, where countries from around the world have built monasteries representing their unique Buddhist traditions. The architecture changes as you move through the zone. Golden Thai temples, intricately carved Myanmar pagodas, and simple monasteries in the Zen tradition. Flags flutter softly in the hot breeze. Monks walk slowly, chanting or carrying offerings. This gathering of global temples symbolizes Buddhism's long journey across cultures and centuries. One of Lumbini's most striking landmarks is the gleaming white Peace Pagoda. Built by Japanese monks, it stands tall and bright, symbolizing hope and non-violence. From the top steps, the landscape unfolds quietly, farms, trees, and narrow roads stretching toward the horizon. From Lumbini, the road curves upward again into cooler hills and historic towns. One of the most charming is Tansen, a hilltop town known for cobbled streets, traditional homes, and incredible views over the Kali Gandaki Valley. Tansen has the feel of an old trading outpost. Narrow alleys, wooden balconies, and shops selling hand-woven Dhaka fabric. The region is famous for its distinctive Palpali Dhaka, a patterned cloth used to make topis, traditional caps, and clothing. Weavers work on wooden looms, moving rhythmically as colors blend into geometric patterns passed down through generations. Every shop feels like a small gallery showcasing this craftsmanship. As the road continues north, the hills rise dramatically. Ahead lies Kanchenjunga, the third highest mountain in the world, a colossal peak split across Nepal and India. Often hidden behind thick clouds, Kanchenjunga is revered not only for its height, but for its powerful presence and remote wilderness. This region remains untouched compared to more visited trekking routes, a place where trails feel wild, forests stretch endlessly, and mountains tower without interruption. The trails here wind through deep rhododendron forests, glacial rivers, and high alpine valleys. Villages are small and isolated, with stone houses warmed by wood fires and surrounded by fields carved into the steep hillsides. Trekkers walk for hours without seeing roads or vehicles, only prayer flags, spinning watermills, and the distant echoes of nature. Life at this altitude is shaped by resilience. Families grow potatoes and buckwheat, raise yaks, and rely on the land for nearly everything. Villagers greet travelers with warm smiles, offering tea, soup, and stories passed down through generations. These communities preserve traditions that have existed for centuries. Their songs, festivals, and beliefs tied deeply to the mountains around them. As the trail climbs higher, the landscape shifts. Forests fade, replaced by rock, ice, and wind. Glacial rivers cut through the valleys, their icy waters glowing blue under the sun. The air becomes thin, and the only sounds are the crunch of footsteps and the distant roar of avalanches echoing across the slopes. On clear days, the enormous massif finally reveals itself, an unforgettable sight. Kanchenjunga rises like a shimmering fortress of snow and light, its layered peaks catching the sun with a glow that feels almost unreal. The mountain is sacred to local communities who believe it should remain unclimbed to preserve its purity. Even today, climbers respect a tradition of stopping just short of the true summit. This region is a reminder that Nepal is more than famous trekking routes. It is a land of hidden valleys, untouched forests, quiet villages, and towering peaks rarely seen by most travelers. Sunrise paints the mountains gold. Evening turns them violet. Each day here feels like stepping into a timeless world. As the journey heads back through the foothills, the landscapes begin to soften again. Rivers widening, forests thickening, hills folding into one another. From snowy summits to warm plains, from ancient temples to wild jungles, Nepal reveals itself as a land of incredible variety, every region offering something entirely its own. Traveling across Nepal changes the way you see the world. You learn that beauty can be found everywhere, in the quiet strength of mountains, the warmth of small communities, the rhythm of daily life, and the history carved into the land. Nepal is not just a destination, it is a feeling, a calmness, a reminder of how vast and connected the world truly is. A fast-paced, emotional montage pulls together the journey, from Kathmandu's temples to Everest's ridges, Pokhara's lakes to Chitwan's jungles, Lumbini's gardens to Kanchenjunga's silent heights. Nepal is a place that stays with you long after you leave, in memories of distant mountains, warm tea shared with strangers, and the quiet moments that make travel meaningful. It is a land of contrasts, ancient and alive, rugged and gentle, remote yet welcoming. Thank you for joining this journey across Nepal. May these landscapes inspire your own adventures, and may you carry a piece of Nepal with you wherever you go.